Jonas Hale had always considered himself a pragmatic man. 20 years hauling cargo between Mars and the Belt had taught him to calculate risks, measure opportunities, and never trust a deal that seemed too good to be true. Yet here he stood, staring at the deed to a lunar farm he'd purchased for half the market price, wondering if desperation had finally overridden common sense. The farm sprawled across Crater Tycho's western rim, 30 hectares of pressurized domes and hydroponic towers that had once produced enough protein-rich algae to feed a small colony. The previous owner had fled back to Earth without explanation, leaving behind functional equipment and a reputation for madness that had scared off every sensible buyer. Jonas wasn't sensible anymore. He was broke. The main dome's airlock cycled with a hiss that echoed his resignation. Inside, rows of cultivation tanks stretched into shadow, their automated lights flickering in pre-programmed sequences. Everything appeared operational. Everything appeared normal. Then he saw the scaffolding. It rose from the dome's center like a skeletal tower, supporting the environmental control systems that regulated temperature and atmosphere. And perched at its apex, silhouetted against the Earth hanging in the lunar sky beyond the transparent dome, was something that made Jonas's breath catch. Velrix. He'd heard the name whispered in the station bars before purchase, always accompanied by nervous laughter or hasty subject changes. The estate agent had mentioned minor wildlife complications, with the same tone one might use to describe a leaky faucet. Jonas had assumed rats, perhaps an infestation of Martian moss beetles. Not this. The creature measured at least 4 meters from nose to tail, its body a study in predatory perfection. Midnight black fur rippled over muscles that suggested power beyond anything evolution on Earth had produced. 6 legs gripped the scaffolding with casual certainty, each ending in retractable claws that gleamed like surgical steel. But it was the eyes that froze Jonas in place, 3 of them arranged in a triangle across its broad skull, each glowing with bioluminescent amber that tracked his every movement. Velrix regarded him with the patience of something that had never known fear. Jonas's hand drifted toward the plasma cutter on his belt, then stopped. The creature hadn't moved, hadn't growled. It simply watched with those impossible eyes, waiting for something Jonas couldn't comprehend. "You're why he left," Jonas whispered to the beast. "You're why this place was half price." The creature's ears, 4 of them, arranged in pairs, twitched in what might have been acknowledgement. For 3 days, Jonas worked around Velrix's presence. He repaired irrigation systems, recalibrated nutrient mixtures, and systematically checked every piece of equipment the previous owner had abandoned. The creature never descended from its perch, never threatened, never moved except to shift position when the Earth's position changed in the sky. It was unnerving. More unnerving than aggression would have been. On the 4th day, the environmental system failed. Jonas was knee-deep in a cultivation tank when the temperature alarms screamed. The dome's heating elements had shorted simultaneously, a cascade failure that would freeze every crop within hours. On Luna, where night temperatures plunged to minus 170 Celsius, the dome's insulation alone wouldn't save his investment. He sprinted to the control panel, fingers flying across interfaces as he rerouted power and activated backup systems. Nothing responded. The primary heating grid was completely fried, and the backups had been cannibalized for parts by the previous owner. "No, no, no," Jonas muttered, watching temperature readings drop. Everything he'd gambled on this farm, his savings, his future, his last chance at independence, was about to freeze into worthless slag. That's when he noticed Velrix had moved. The creature had descended to the scaffolding's mid-level, its 3 eyes fixed not on Jonas but on the heating element junction boxes. One massive paw extended, claws retracting to reveal what Jonas initially mistook for pads, but were actually something far more sophisticated, manipulator digits with opposable capability. Velrix began to work. Jonas watched, stunned, as the alien feline accessed panels with practiced precision, its claws interfacing with ports that Jonas had assumed were simply maintenance access points. The creature moved between junction boxes with fluid grace, its body contorting through spaces that should have been impossible for something its size. Sparks flew, systems hummed back to life. Temperature readings stabilized, then began climbing back toward operational levels. Within 20 minutes, Vilrix had repaired what would have taken Jonas hours with proper equipment, if he could have fixed it at all. The creature returned to its perch at the scaffolding's apex, settling back into its vigil as though nothing had happened. Jonas felt something break inside his chest, not from fear, not from relief, from understanding. He climbed the scaffolding, each rung bringing him closer to the predator that had haunted his new home. Velrix watched his approach without alarm, those three amber eyes tracking but not threatening. Up close, Jonas could see details the distance had hidden, circuitry patterns beneath the creature's fur, bioluminescent veins that pulsed with what might have been data streams, and scars that suggested battles fought and survived. "You're not a beast," Jonas said, his voice cracking. "You're an engineer." Velrix's rumbling response vibrated through the scaffolding. Not quite a purr, not quite speech, but communication nonetheless. Jonas reached out slowly, offering his hand to a creature that could have ended him with casual violence. Velrix extended one massive paw, and their contact completed a circuit Jonas hadn't known existed. Images flooded his mind, not words but concepts. A civilization that had merged biology with technology, a diaspora across the stars. Velrix, assigned as this farm's guardian and engineer, left behind when economic collapse forced rapid evacuation. The previous owner's fear, the creature's loneliness. Years spent maintaining systems for humans who never understood what they'd inherited. Tears streamed down Jonas's face, not from sorrow, but from the weight of cosmic irony. Humanity had spread across the solar system convinced of their technological supremacy, while this magnificent being had sat alone on Luna, maintaining their infrastructure out of dedication or perhaps simple hope that someday someone would see beyond appearances. "I'm sorry," Jonas whispered. "I'm so sorry we didn't understand." Velrix's third eye brightened, and Jonas felt something that might have been forgiveness, or perhaps relief, or maybe just acknowledgement that finally, after years of isolation, someone had truly seen. The lunar farm would thrive. Jonas knew that now. Not because he was a skilled farmer, but because he'd found a partner who'd been waiting all along for someone wise enough to look beyond fear and recognize competence, regardless of its form. Together they would build something remarkable.